is ripping.
My tummy hurts.
Pretty good, Brad Matt. Hey guys, what's going on? Nick with Off the Chart Trading. I'll be doing tonight's video for Tuesday, the 14th of December. I'm not sure if it's noticeable in my voice, but I have not felt too hot the last couple days. It's weird. I don't know. I start feeling better towards the end of the day, like around this time into the, before I go to sleep, and then I wake up and I feel like I got hit by a car. So maybe I got the Unicron. I'm not 100% sure. Also had something done on Friday, which members know. So a mix of getting that done and coughing a lot and some other stuff just has not been a fun couple days for me. I've been out of the room the last 2 days, but I figured I could dedicate at least 10 to 15 minutes to you guys on the YouTubes and go over some stuff. Honestly, it's going to be fresh eyes for me. I literally came into the office, turned on the computer, opened up TOS, Window Trader, OBS, and I just clicked play. So I have not looked at anything. I have no pregame, no planning, just a matter of, once again, fresh eyes, looking at it together for the first time today. When I was laying in bed, I kept up with the market, obviously, from my phone, but from a technical level or using my setup, it's all fresh for me for today. So anyway, a little bit of selling today. One thing I did write about, and I screenshot it from my phone, I did like that we held the 34 today. We did also fill that gap. It's more noticeable on my my market profile, so we'll take a look at that. You can kind of see it there as well. Actually, no, you can't really see gaps on the futures contracts because of the way they trade. But we'll take a look at the market profile at the end of the video just to give you an idea of structurally how we look. And today wasn't that bad, to be perfectly honest. I think it was just people probably selling before tomorrow's announcement. As far as what they say, Powell and friends. But anyway, ES looks all right. Like I said, I figured we'd find support around the 4,600 area, the psychological level, filling that gap. And we did kind of hover around there towards the lows and then came back up and then did close above the 34. So I wouldn't consider that bullish, but it's not bearish. So, sometimes something might not be this or that, but,
so
it's
how many of you were raised, perhaps
what
like
is
me,
this?
where in your
How
family,
to properly manage your money,
maybe
like a
there was
rich
some split
Tom Ferry.
mentality?
I don't know if YouTube's trying to get me to watch something. My phone randomly just started playing that. Maybe it's a sign. I don't know what a video is. It says it's 4 years old. Tom Ferry. Name sounds familiar. Anyway, sorry about that. I don't edit, so we're just going to roll with it. But anyway, yeah, so the ES looks pretty good. Like I said, today I figured either be balanced. Maybe we see a little bit of selling, just people jumping the gun, assuming that, they're more hawkish. Maybe they're going to mention raising rates sooner, or just that one word or something that spooks the market. Once again, we are near somewhat all-time highs, so taking profits, especially into the end of the year, playing it safe. I'm sure some people, big money, did that today, and that's kind of what we saw. And then towards the close, even though we did sell, I don't want to say we sold off, but we did sell a little bit, but still closed above the 34. So overall decent. NQ, honestly didn't look at the NQ at all today. Has that squeeze on the daily. NQ not holding on to its 34, closing below, and actually got a lot uglier today. I know from a percentage standpoint I knew that, but it's a different thing when you're actually looking at it. So it's a little more serious with tech. Like I said, if they do start increasing rates, or at least there's talk and a date and time when they decide to do it, typically tech will get hit. That's something we need to keep an eye on, that if this squeeze does end up firing short, it could get, somewhat ugly, going back to maybe down somewhere over here, or potentially seeing its 200. That's pretty far away. Obviously, it still has its 50. But I'm just saying, if it does get ugly, you might want to target the 200. But baby steps, obviously the 50 would be front and center, which has been pretty good support. Closed above it, closed above it, closed above it, closed above it. So the 50's actually been really good support on the NQ, so that's definitely something you want to keep an eye on. Russell, small caps. Also not that hot today. Typically, we kind of said that before too. Russell kind of leads the rest of the market. Not all the time, this squeeze still has not fired. The high compression fired, and that's what I was calling for, was all-time highs. I know I made a joke about that, I think a couple weeks ago. I did say that was the prophecy. Once the Russell saw all-time highs, that's when we would see some selling and the top would be in. So far, that seems to be playing through because we've been below the 34 on the weekly for a month now. And the squeeze momentum is shifting lower. So that's definitely something to keep an eye on if this does end up firing short. Obviously, it's still early. It's been in a squeeze since May. So that's quite a long time on a weekly chart. But anyway, I mean, not horrible, but, you know, if it breaks out from this area, we drop lower, going below like, what, 21, 25 and so forth, going lower. I think that might start, you know, pacing the market lower. We'll have to see. The Dow, don't really care about too much, but I will say, and it's kind of seeing it like this now right on its 200, excuse me, it's 50, and all the other EMAs kind of stacked right on it. I would actually think the Dow holds up fairly well, mainly off the back of Apple and some of the other bigger names, because if there is inflation, I think money's going to go kind of how it's been, you know, Fang Man and all that kind of stuff. Whatever you want to add T to it for Tesla and this and that, and, you know, 10 stocks control like 60% of the markets. And they might get bigger. That might be the flight to safety. That's why we've seen Apple so strong. It was down a little bit today, but overall, you know, we have been a little rocky, and Apple's kind of just been chugging along. So the Dow actually might be pretty solid. Maybe to get diamond calls, something to look at. But anyway, actually holding up probably the best out of all of them. And I was thinking that before I switched to it, that it was probably holding up better because of the bigger names like, you know, sure, like Salesforce and all these other ones, Verizon. You know, some of those are, I don't want to say staples, but they're bigger companies. They have probably decent balance sheets. They have cash, and they can survive higher interest and inflation and raise prices and stuff like that. So those stocks actually might do fairly well going into 2022 and 2023 if, you know, worst case scenarios from what the TV will tell you happen, then those names actually might be some of the better ones to play. I don't want to own any of them, but, you know, getting calls 6 months out or leaps or something, we'll cross that bridge when it gets to it. One thing I talked about in the room, because like I said, the last time I've been in the room was Friday, was to keep an eye on staples, that they've been kind of silent in the background, slowly creeping up, and then literally yesterday we hit all-time highs and came pretty close today. So a little extended here, but not too bad. Has that weekly squeeze. Looks like, I mean, if you go by the low compression, a regular one, I did fire along this week. So that is something to keep in mind. This is part of my top-down approach to trading, is when I say that, okay, cool. So how is Procter & Gamble doing today? Green. Look at that. Okay, cool. So this is when, you know, when you look at, excuse me, my ETFs and stuff like that, you can kind of see it. I mean, sometimes it's obvious, like, oh, why didn't we get into this, you know, 2 weeks ago? But when it's quiet and you see it kind of being tiptoed, money's rotating into it. You just want to be aware of it. So I came up with the idea of potentially getting calls in the staples, which would be the XLP, mainly because they're fairly inexpensive and going out. I was kind of like, it's a little extended, and I feel like every time I play that game, it's only for like a couple of days that it looks like money's rotating into them. And then whatever the issue is, whether it's the Fed or Omicron, Perseid 8, or whatever is, you know, the talking point on TV, once those fears kind of subside, these end up coming back down. So most of the time, the trade might work for a couple days, and then it feels like it doesn't. But that doesn't necessarily mean Procter & Gamble won't be 160 tomorrow, and then 165 next week, and so forth. So, you know, just skimming through this, you know, green on the day. Look at that. I mean, the daily, look at that. You know, for the last week and a half, Coke's gapped up a couple times. That's kind of crazy. How's Walmart? And if you notice, it's almost like having a watch list in your mind of the ETFs and kind of having an idea that they are green on the day, based off that. So Walmart's been a good one. We talked about it once it came back down to here, over here for this level, came down here, found a little bit of support, came down again. So we mentioned the 135, 136 area, and sure enough, if anybody took that, I mean, that's almost a $10 move. So Walmart, I haven't looked at Target or any of these other ones today. Also Costco. Actually, out of all of them, I think I like Target because it doesn't look that good versus some of these other ones. It did close above its 200, so Target actually might be a decent idea for you to potentially look into tomorrow or going into the rest of this year, because it has been fairly weak. But if money is rotating into these, Target might be a decent one to take a look at. Costco down, that's interesting. Figure that one would be up with the other ones. Still closed above its 8, but down about $12 on the day. As far as stocks, I mean, I did buy a few things today. Mainly, actually, now since I'm doing the video, I can kill two birds and actually look at TSP and see if it did. No, it didn't. Well, a high compression one did fire, so that's actually not looking too hot. Maybe I should have looked before I pulled the trigger. I added to this position mainly off of this squeeze that it's been in. Momentum shift right on the weekly. So actually, yeah, it's not looking as good. I averaged down today once it got down to this lower thing because I was looking at a 3-month and it was right back around here when it was over here, something like this. It was right around that level, and I decided to buy one more. I have calls going out till May, so I'm not really in a rush. Like I said, stocks can do this, and then magically, just as fast as they go down, they can come back up. Which reminds me, I just want to look at this real quick. Obviously, some members might remember this trade from literally like 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. Got in because of a high compression squeeze. Everything was looking good, momentum shift higher. Got in right here, and then literally the next day it's down like $10 or whatever it is, kind of rebounding and then drops off. But look at that, you know, basically going back to where we got in, which was crazy. So I actually still have these calls. They expire this Friday. They're slowly coming back. I mean, I was down 98% down here, and now I'm only down like 70%. I say only, but I mean there might, you know, if it's if it's up, you know, I have the 220 calls for this week. If it opens up, you know, $3-4, healthcare has actually been pretty strong. That's why I got into this one. We actually might be able to salvage them, and by that I mean get back some premium. Doesn't have to be, you know, a profitable trade, but if I can go from being down, I don't know, say $2,000 and only lose $1,000, that's a winning trade in a sense to me, especially as a trader, having that mindset that if, you know, you can get back some of your money, that's a win. So I just find it funny that I get in right here, looks amazing, and then the next day, nope, and then slowly comes back, you know, whatever, shakes it off, breaks below its 50, falls off a cliff, and then gets down to like the 190 area or whatever, and then just literally green every single day for like 2 weeks straight. So I just find it funny. That happens sometimes. That's part of trading. Like I said, you got a nice setup. You think it's going to consolidate, break higher. Last time we looked at this from 200 to 220, we got off the squeeze. I was looking for kind of a deja vu, and obviously the opposite happened. Not in a weekly squeeze too now. High compression, interesting. Anyway, I just wanted to show that was kind of one of those, everything looks great, drops, and then then can rebound. So never give up, never surrender. What else did I get? So that was the only option trade I did. I did add, I shouldn't say add, new position, VUZI. I call this one back, geez, somewhere over here. Actually, no, further, where are we? This is a weekly chart. This is the beginning of, yeah, so it's probably around here. Probably a little before this, September, October, I don't remember the exact time. The stock was like $3, and I really said I liked VUZI, and I would add it to like a longer term trade. That's before I started buying things for longer term. But obviously, if I see an idea, I don't mind sharing it. Sure enough, I think it was this week or whatever, right before the end of the year, it shot up to like $8 or $9. I had calls for June. I had like the $5 calls. I was up like 300-400%. I took the money. I had 1,000 shares. I think at like $3, $3.20, something like that. I sold it. So it was a really nice trade. And then literally what happened? Boom, all the way up. That was a, you know, that happened a lot last year. You know, right, getting out before the end of the year or getting out right in the beginning, and then things just went all, you know, all the way up to February and March and so forth. So anyway, VUZI has come down quite a lot from its highs. So I figured, you know, if I liked it at $3 or $4, just like Blink, I liked it at 180. I'm not going to buy it at 30, 40, $50. I just can't. Neo, I can't buy it when I had it at $3. So when some of these stocks get close to that price again, and I like it, then I don't mind nibbling. So I have a starter position in VUZI. I got in at like 920 today, 920, 925, whatever it was. Just, you know, starter position. I like it. I think it could be a play in the metaverse, potentially with their goggles. Maybe they rebrand or they do something with it. But they have some pretty cool stuff. So I'd recommend taking a look. VUZI's their company. The other one I added to today, which has been beat up somewhat recently, IPO, right? Yeah, it was back in June. This one, they deal with psychedelics and stuff to treat things. So I'm kind of jumping the gun, you know, passing pot and going straight into like the heavier, you know, psychedelic type stuff. But I think that might actually have a more, I don't know, I want to say medical, because trust me, out of everybody watching this video, I have the least experience when it comes to drugs or anything. But, you know, as far as where I think they could, you know, use it for other, you know, it's hard to explain what I'm trying to say, especially because I have a massive headache in the pounding. But basically, I think there could be more use for this in the medical field. So this one hit $10 today. I think I added at 10.20. My average is still pretty high. I think at like 14 something now. So relatively, I mean, if you're going to hold the stock for 5, 10, 15 years and the stock's at $200, who really cares if your average is 15 or 14 or 10? But anyway, it hit all-time lows today at 10. Was it today? I think it was today. Yeah, $10. Momentum's been heading higher, so we'll have to see. But longer-term trade for me. And I figured I'd share just in case. Maybe you guys don't even know about the stock, so maybe you can add that ticker to your watch list, or maybe that interests you as well. And there you go. There's an investment idea or potential a trade idea, seeing that it's at its lows. Sometimes there's nothing wrong getting calls 6 months out when things are at 52-week lows, down 55, 60% from the highs, and wait for it to level out and go higher. But lately, when you think that's going to happen, it goes lower. So that's why I say I'm nibbling and adding shares and not really doing any option type trades with these types of plays, because they're longer term ideas for me. The last one I added to today was Wework. This one, I mean, I don't know if I mentioned it. It's sometimes hard to remember what I talk about in the room and then what I talk about in these videos. But I like the idea. This one got beat up because I think they tried to go public right before COVID, and obviously when you're physically renting offices, that's not going to happen during COVID. So they got hit, and then there was some other stuff with China and the CEO or whatever, and some other odds and ends. So it was kind of rough. I personally like that. Call me crazy, but I'd rather things get beat up and still like the idea, because that typically means I can get a better price. So I started nibbling at this, I think, when it was still, I've had actually shares in this one since it was BOX, I think, going back like 6 months ago. My average was like $10, and obviously it's dropped. So now I have about 400 shares, 425 shares on average of like $9 or high 8. Might go lower, who knows? I mean, it's got pretty close to its lows. That seems to be the trend lately, that these things just bleed, and you think you're getting an amazing price. Wow, it was at 15 and now it's at 7. I'm getting half off, and you're buying it at 7, and then it's at 5. So once again, if you're going to play with fire, you just need to have a plan. And my plan obviously is to hold this stuff much longer than, a couple days, couple weeks, couple months. Granted, the stock's at, $50 tomorrow, then I'm going to probably sell it. But, giving it time, kind of planting seeds and just seeing how it goes, kind of diversifying with different ideas. But that's basically all I did. Like I said, I laid in bed for 95% of the day, picked up my son, and then literally just rolled in here to do this video for you guys. The dedication, I swear. What was I going to say? Not really. I'm looking at my internal screen real quick. It's the first time I'm looking at it. Fancy clients actually weren't that bad today. VIX, not that bad. Breadth ratios, 2 to 1, basically almost on both, if an average. Tick distribution, kind of balanced. I mean, more bearish than anything, but not horrible. So kind of what I was talking about in the beginning of the video. Like I said, I wouldn't put too much weight in today's price action. I think it's just, all be dependent on tomorrow. I don't think they're going to say anything stupid, but you never know. What was I going to say? Let's take a look at the profile. When it comes to gaps and just viewing certain things, I think it's always best to look at the profile. One thing I talked about, and this was Thursday, so I did the video here, and I was talking about the balance for 3 days, and that we, if we broke out, and we did technically break out, we closed here on a Friday, everything's looking pretty good. So you would normally assume that you would see continuation, and in the beginning of the day, you did get up a little higher. I don't know why I refreshed this before I did it. I'm like, that's not right. Well, I guess that was from a different day, right? Yeah. Anyway, only one contract at the high. That's hilarious. I don't think I've ever seen that. Feel bad for that one person. I'm gonna go long right here. Psych. Anyway, we opened right there a little bit, and then we couldn't even match the highs from there. So that wasn't, once again, I'm redoing this because this is the first time you guys are hearing from me since Thursday, and obviously I'm doing this because I wasn't in the room today. But just breaking down the profile, that you have technically 4 days of balance. Looks like you're going to break out. You attempt to, you don't. So typically what happens is you retest the low end of balance, which would have been down here. So not only did we do that, we broke lower, and we did fill that gap. And it wasn't by that, by a little bit, right? No, hang on. Yeah, what is that? 10 points? Not even? 5, 6 points? 13 contracts on the low. You see that tapering off effective volume and then heading back up. We also settled above halfback, so that's something to note as well. So VPOC and point of control, we're lower on the profile, but like I said, I'm not putting too much weight. I think the selling makes sense in the sense of people getting out before a big known catalyst. Like I said, some catalysts are known. You know, the Fed minutes, the Fed this, an election. Those are all known events. COVID coming out of nowhere, those are unknown events. You know, I don't want to say black swan type of thing, but I'm just saying sometimes, you know, bomb going off or this happening or, you know, whatever. Those are, you know, catalysts that we find about in a second and then markets react. And then there's other known catalysts. So known catalysts, people have time to prepare and obviously make decisions. So it might have been part of whoever's plan. I always just say they in quotations to them for them to sell into yesterday and today, just to take profits. And obviously that's what happened. We did fill that gap, so that's kind of a check there. We didn't go much lower than that, like I said. That's what, 5-6 points or so. So it wasn't really anything too crazy. And then we did end up closing above half back, which I think is noteworthy and, you know, carrying forward. You know, we open up right there. We drop one tick, and then we are building up, you know. I mean, we're basically right back to where we opened, but we are building up higher. So I would assume we're going to stay in this range tomorrow until, I don't know, I'm assuming, I don't think it's a decision. I honestly, like I said, my head's been pounding all day and been laying down. But whatever the Fed is going to either talk about or say or do will be tomorrow. I'm assuming at 2, and then if he is going to speak, it would be 2:30. So my point is, I wouldn't expect much fireworks one way or the other. We'll probably stay within this volume area. Probably not taking the highs out unless he does or somebody says something, and then maybe we end up heading higher. But I would expect to stay in this type of range. You know, if you want levels, we'll just say 4650 to 4600, somewhere in that 50-point range. For most of the day, probably 4625 to 4650. And I'm just honestly throwing out numbers, basically saying balancing within this area. I wouldn't expect some type of craziness until you know, he's up speaking or whatever. Like I said, 2 o'clock, 2:30, whatever time it will be on Eastern Standard Time. So I would expect sideways action until then, but we'll just have to wait and see. I'd be careful. Like I said, it could always be a curveball. I think it's going to be a non-event. I don't think they're going to say anything too stupid. But I know some of the inflation data that came out today wasn't that great, so I don't know how early they get that and if they make decisions off of that, but we'll just have to wait and see. Anyway, on that, I am going to go eat and then take some NyQuil or ZQuil or a cocktail of stuff and go pass out. You guys have a great night, and I will catch you at the next one.